Former Knicks GM Scott Perry recently reacted to the Knicks trading for OG Anunoby. As everybody knows, Scott Perry used to be part of the New York Knicks, and when he was GM, he did try to trade for OG Anunoby, but unfortunately couldn't get the job done. So I'm very curious to hear from him and what he has to say about this trade. All of this and so much more today. So be sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. Scott Perry, former GM of the New York Knicks, recently reacted to this major blockbuster trade the New York Knicks made, getting OG Anunoby, Malachi Flynn, and Precious Achiuwa on this roster in exchange for Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and a second-round pick. Because nobody thought that the New York Knicks and the Raptors were going to do business together, given the fact that they had an impending lawsuit, and even prior to that, Toronto and New York had issues in regards to trading going back to when the Raptors fleeced the Knicks in the Bargnani trade so many years ago. So for the New York Knicks and the Raptors to actually get a trade done is actually a very big deal. And Scott Perry took time out of his day to respond to it, react to it, and give his comments on if he thinks OG Anunoby will be a good fit in New York. Roll the clip.
I'm a real big fan of RJ Barrett, but I always thought he would be better at the two-guard position. And they've been playing him at the three and even some backup four. OG brings more size to that position, and he brings a better defensive component. And he's a guy that, in terms of just catching and shooting and spotting up, will fit well with Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, who are more ball-dominant players. And then also look for the silent part of the deal from the Knicks part. This Precious Achiuwa that they picked up, who obviously won't be talked a lot about in the deal, but I think he can be very helpful to this team. He brings some size, aggression on the front line, physicality that will fit the New York style of play, some depth there with Mitchell Robinson being out now. On the Toronto side, you're feeling good. You're bringing RJ Barrett back, who's been a very successful NBA player. He's from there, so he's going to be a big draw in your building. You know he's going to be happy to be playing there and representing his hometown Raptors. And then picking up Emmanuel Quickley, I think is huge for them. He's proven already in his short time in the league, he's one of the best in the league at coming off the bench and scoring a lot of points in a hurry.
Shout out to Scott Perry from the Hoops Genius podcast for giving us this reaction on how he felt about the New York Knicks trading for OG Anunoby. He made some very good points, but for me, one of the best points he made was that OG Anunoby is a way better fit with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, especially because he's a better defender, he gives them more size, and he's just a better fit in terms of being a catch and shoot type of player. Because right now, his three-point shooting is phenomenal, and the New York Knicks needed it. He helps space the floor better. And when Jalen is going into the paint, or Julius Randle is going into the paint, and they're both doubled, they're looking at that left corner, and they're throwing it to OG Anunoby now. And OG Anunoby from the left corner for this Knicks team, or for any team that he's played for, is about 50%. That is extraordinary. The Knicks need that, and defenses can't just lay off of him now. Defenses have to run, have to put multiple defenders on him. And if you do that, guess what happens? You open up the paint for Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson. So if you do that, you get hurt in other ways. That's what OG Anunoby gives you. I absolutely agree with Scott Perry here. He gives them size. And Scott Perry absolutely knows that because Perry tried to trade for OG Anunoby when he was the Knicks GM. The unfortunate part was the Knicks couldn't get a deal done then. But now, since OG's in his final year of his deal on a contract year, has a player option, they didn't really have many options, did the Raptors. They had to really find the suitor that OG Anunoby would be comfortable with, but also a team that would be willing to give up significant assets. And the New York Knicks were able to do that because the Knicks gave up two of their next best scorers right after Jalen and Julius in Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. So it's not like they didn't lose anything. They absolutely did. But the reason why this trade is a winner for the New York Knicks is because they filled the position of need. They gave themselves more size, more spacing, and more shooting with the OG Anunoby trade. And because OG Anunoby may be willing to take less money in a contract extension, they may have just given themselves more breathing room to get that next superstar or star player on this roster. This move checks a lot of boxes, but not only for the Knicks, as Scott Perry stated, for the Toronto Raptors as well too. Because I believe, just like Scott Perry believes, that the New York Knicks should have utilized RJ Barrett more at the shooting guard position. Even though he can't shoot the ball extremely well, that's not the only thing you need to do at the shooting guard position. If you're a shooting guard in this league, you need to be able to attack. You need to be able to drive. You need to be able to defend. You need to be able to do all of the other intangibles that shooting guards need to do. And RJ Barrett can do that. And I believe his shooting is going to come in the next few seasons. But right now, he's doing everything else you want from a shooting guard. His aggression, driving to the rim, taking contact, being able to get to the free throw line, and playing with Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickley. They will be very, very good with Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett as part of that roster. You might not be able to see the benefits of it right now this season, but I think over the course of the next few years, and you anticipate that the Raptors are going to keep Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett for the next few seasons. If that's the case, I think everybody's going to win from this trade because OG is going to look better and better and better with the New York Knicks, and RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley will thrive with the Toronto Raptors. You could actually even say Toronto has a mini big three in IQ, RJ Barrett, and Scotty Barnes. And the reason I'm not saying Siakam is just because given all the reports that are out there right now, it doesn't seem that he's long for the Toronto Raptors. He's likely going to be traded for a couple of other pieces that the Raptors utilize for their rebuild. Because without a doubt, it is clear the Raptors are rebuilding right around Scotty Barnes. And any pieces that they feel fit around him, they're going to be added. So only time is going to tell to see what other pieces Masai Ujiri surrounds around that Raptors unit. But for me right now, the New York Knicks are looking good. They are cruising. They finally have their wing in OG Anunoby. Their wing for now, today, and the future. He's young. He fits the age timeline. He gives the Knicks everything that you want to see from a wing player. 3 and D to an elite level. And not only that, if you take away Mikal Bridges, he is probably the best fit for the New York Knicks in terms of a wing player. Getting a wing like OG Anunoby or somebody that's similar to him just unlocks this team and makes them look completely different. But OG Anunoby, the one thing he has over other wings in the league right now is not only his age, it's his defensive tenacity. He is one of the best defenders in the league, and he showcased why in the win over Minnesota. What OG does on defense seems to trickle down to the rest of the roster because just as good on defense as he is, the rest of the roster sees that. They seem to buy in, and they seem to be just as good on defense as well too. And for Tom Thibodeau, a Tom Thibodeau-led team, this is like a match made in heaven because this is exactly what you wanted to see after RJ Barrett left your team. And right now, the Knicks are another player, another piece away from being a significant contender in the NBA. And I think it's only a DeJounte Murray move away for the Knicks before they become that team. All signs, for me, are pointing to Murray. And whether or not the Knicks move that direction is going to be Leon Rose and the New York Knicks' decision. And even after doing this OG trade, they have all of their first-round picks. They have Evan Fournier, an expiring deal, and they have a young asset in Quentin Grimes. All the things you need to make a star or superstar trade happen. So now we're just waiting on the Knicks to make that move. And I think that move is going to happen closer to January 9th and January 15th, when a lot of players the New York Knicks may have their eye on are eligible to be traded for. I can't wait to see what happens. This is one of my favorite times of the year, the NBA trade season, where teams can try to change their fate from being a good team to a great team. Right now, the Knicks are a very good team. And I anticipate the Knicks and Leon Rose are going to make a trade to make the Knicks a great team. And I can't wait to see who that player is. But what about you guys? What did you think about Scott Perry and his reaction to the Knicks trading for OG Anunoby? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.